Welcome to the thrilling world of Security Squawk, where we explore cybersecurity. Guiding you through online threats, we'll aid you in understanding safety protocols and trends. Meet our gurus, Brian from Exact IT, Reginald from Arc Solvers, and Randy from Tech Rescue. Together, we'll delve into current events and hot cybersecurity topics, helping you comprehend their impact. Stay informed, stay secure. Security Squawk, the business of cybersecurity. Buckle up, let's dive in.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Security Squawk. It's a podcast where we keep it real and break down the biggest cybersecurity stories hitting businesses today. I'm Brian Horning, and I've got a hot one for you this week. We're diving into the ransomware attack that rocked Ingram Micro, guys. And it's one of the biggest. If you don't know who Ingram Micro is, they are one of the biggest IT distributors in the world, and they got hit hard, and we've got the details. So we'll jump into that one in the show today. Plus, if you're wondering how AI is transforming cyber threats, you're not alone. Andre's bringing some fresh statistics that are going to blow your mind or maybe even scare the hell out of you. I don't know. But we're going to jump into what's happening with AI and how AI is being used as a weapon against businesses today. And Randy's going to take us into a little bit of a deeper conversation about the growing tensions between AI innovation and data protection. And we're going to ponder whether we're pushing tech too far with enough guardrails at this point. So we got a lot to unpack. So let's get into it. I'm going to bring in my co-hosts, Andre and Randy. Fellas, welcome back. How are you guys?
Doing good, man. Randy, looks like you're in a dark room or something. You putting some new film on?
Our power's out here, man. I'm going from a hotspot and my backup battery. So
Good to see you have a contingency plan.
Something like that.
So I'm going to probably try to share my screen here. We'll see what happens. First article up on the. Here we go. We did it. Good job. Nice. First story kind of hits close to home here, especially if you're in the IT world. I know our friends in the MSP space check in onto the show every once in a while. But this hits on, close to home for anyone in the IT channel or IT space. And Ingram Micro, they are one of the world's largest IT distributors, and they confirmed that they were the victims of a ransomware attack that took down systems. And the result of that, or what's happening as a result of that, is it's impacting order processing, and it's causing massive disruptions for partners globally. Now, the attack has been attributed to the SafePay ransomware group. They caused an extended outage, which started around July 2nd, with many systems remaining offline for several days. While Ingram claims there's no evidence of customer or partner data being exfiltrated, we all know how often that initial statement changes after a deeper investigation. And what's interesting here is how loyal their partner base has been during the event. It brings up a lot of questions. How much trust does a big vendor like Ingram carry? How do incidents like this ripple down to MSPs and their clients? And how would your business hold up if your supply chain was suddenly frozen? So let's unpack it. Guys, we've talked about this whole supply chain kind of business disruption phenomenon for well since the third quarter last year. We really started to hit on this, and rightfully so. It's been a major topic of conversation throughout that time, as we see multiple companies who are integral into many supply chains being hit with things like ransomware and other types of cyber attacks. So we can unpack it here a little bit. Obviously, we all know who this vendor is. I don't know if you guys use them. We certainly use them.
No.
And I'm happy to share kind of what my company's experienced as a result of this. But just to kind of put a kind of Ingram doesn't just supply the MSP world. Ingram actually supplies Best Buy and other sellers on Amazon. There's plenty of times where I have purchased things on Amazon, purchased things on other, usually it's electronics related. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes Ingram, distributes things that are outside of the IT world. But for the most part, it's usually IT or electronics based. And when it shows up to my house or my office and I see the label on it, I know the address of all of Ingram's warehouses. And when I see that address, I know it came from Ingram, right? So it's kind of like, the insider's way to know something came from one of our distributors, because we can recognize the warehouse address a lot of times on the labels, right? That's one way that I can tell. So I've ordered things from Best Buy and many of other places and received things that have come in. So they don't just, they're a big distributor, the world's largest, quite frankly. So it's going to impact a lot more businesses than just MSPs and IT companies out there. So, what are you guys' thoughts on what's going on here, and has it impacted you guys in any way?
No, so we don't use Ingram, but Brian, I had a question for you. So I know in the green room you mentioned that you can't email your rep, but the portal as well, you can't even place any orders at the moment?
I don't know, dude. I don't
Okay.
do that in my company. So I just know that we have a client is doing a pretty sizable expansion of their business, and we need to order a lot of equipment. And we usually bid it out to the different vendors that we work with, and typically we get a response from them within an hour. Usually, I mean, they're usually
Right.
very responsive when they want to sell you something, and we're not getting any response at all. So,
Okay.
I guess the other way, I'm pretty sure it's still this way. We apparently get better pricing if we just email our rep versus go into the website and order. So I
hmm
think we always email our rep, and for whatever reason, they're not responding. My guess is they are getting the emails, like their email isn't down. They're
Right.
just not responding because they can't process orders. So kind of like, what's the point? Um, my other guess would be that, the team we deal with for the most part on the sales side is not US based. They're, I think they're probably in the Philippines or somewhere like that. And my guess would be that if Ingram's looking at this like we can't place orders, my guess would be that they probably shut like that team down and they're not even coming to work, right?
hmm
So that's why we're not getting a response. So we'll get a response when these people are allowed to come back to work and actually get
Right.
in the email.
Okay.
And
Yeah. And, Brian, every single business basically in our country relies on third parties
yeah,
to get crap done. You know what I
yep,
mean? Like you're in construction, you're relying on, maybe the cement distributor, you're relying on the roofing materials distributor, you're relying on the lumber yard. And these guys here, they do work with a lot of IT companies and a lot of other companies like you said. But it does just bring into fact that as a business, we need to be aware of our third parties. We need to have other options ready to roll in case something happens with one of our main distributors, because that could, we don't use Ingram for equipment. We do use them for some licensing, but that licensing is just set up, and then they send us a bill for it or whatever. So that's not affected here. We don't use them for equipment. But like our main company we use for equipment, what if they couldn't process orders anymore, right? So
yep.
then we would have to have a backup. Every business needs to be thinking about contingencies like that in these kind of situations so they can keep doing business.
100%.
Yeah. And I want to talk about SafePay for a quick moment. They've actually been very active. They're by March 2025, they actually are the fourth most active ransomware group, and they have 43 confirmed victims so far. and also talking about how this happened. So most of the ways that the SafePay ransomware group have infiltrated these type of companies is through VPN logins, and that's either through some type of leaked credentials or password spraying. So if your company is using, the traditional VPNs, make sure that those passwords are being changed. Make sure when your employees are if an employee is no longer there, that those accounts are being disabled.
Yeah, this is not some like super duper necessarily high tech attack vector. You
Never.
just you look for VPN accounts that are idle or that you can get into, or that somebody like the Colonial Pipeline was somebody that had just left the company and his credentials got leaked on the dark web, and then the bad guys went in. I don't know if it was SafePay or not. They went in and just entered in the credentials, and boom, they're in the network. Once they're in the network, they can start poking around and find other vulnerabilities eventually. And what about that name, SafePay? It just makes you want to trust them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, these ransomware group names are very, very just like wild. Like what, like they're either like really dark and mean, or they're like weird, like safe pay. Like like, hey, we'll make you feel good about like
Right.
getting ripped off.
Well, yeah, at least you know that when you do pay them, your money's handled responsibly.
There you go. Right. Yeah. Next it'll be trust ransomware or something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as trust goes, I mean, look, ever since I started, Exact IT 25 years ago, or however long it's been, somewhere between 20 and 25 years, I've had to deal with Ingram, right? And it's just the necessary evil of having to deal with, having to do business in this world where they set it up this way, where it's a manufacturer, distributor kind of, supplier type relationship. And unfortunately, there's not really a lot of opportunities to go to direct with a lot of companies, which would be nice to not have to deal with these middlemen, but it's a necessary evil of it. So it's like, I would never say I ever trusted Ingram. I mean, Ingram is just the necessary evil I needed to go through in order to get my products and services that I need to purchase for my clients to my clients. And that's really what it is at the end of the day. So, the kind of interesting thing for me, guys, is, and I kind of mentioned this in the green room, is, you look at Ingram, right? And they have a huge target on their back as a result of this. But, you also look at the other vendors and how they respond to a situation like this. And I kind of mentioned it in the green room without naming any names. We've already sensed that a vendor or two are trying to take advantage of the situation rather than, just kind of, it's really evident a change in maybe the tone or how they do things. Maybe things are a little bit more rigid or strict than they were in the past, because they essentially know you've lost an option, a big option, right? So flexibility on negotiating prices right now and things like that might not be as easy, because they know we don't have this partner to turn to get better pricing, right? And and that's how we get better pricing. We leverage these distributors against each other to get ourselves better pricing. So a lot of that is, gone away for right now. And there's some other things that are, that we've noticed with the behavior of certain vendors that you're like, I wonder if they'd actually behave that way if, Ingram really was operational right now. So I would just say it would be smart for you to evaluate maybe how you behave, and don't ever try to take advantage of, like, if your partner or somebody in your industry, a competitor of yours, gets nailed with a problem like this, and you don't try to take advantage of that, right? Yeah. By, either price gouging, or, or just not negotiating in good faith like you normally would, because your partner doesn't have that leverage, or your customer or your prospect doesn't have that leverage to go somewhere else anymore. So
Yeah. Oh, two more things. I love what you said because you could actually, if the other competitor actually open arms and saying, "Hey, in the meantime, if you need anybody to like just how you position it, even if though yes, you want their business, but if you just position it and say, "Hey, we know Ingram's having some issues. Come over here. We'll waive, fees or whatever like that. Just come on, buy from us. Go back to them when you're done, and then you shine that way." Second thing I wanted to mention, I checked their stock. Past 5 days, they're only down 2%, or let's just round it up to 3%. So not too bad yet, but I'm sure once the numbers start coming in of all the missed orders and opportunities, that's going
Yeah.
to be bad. And then the third thing, Brian, I know you don't deal with it too much, but are you aware if any emails came through, basically some fake invoices or Ingram even acknowledging to you to let you guys know that there could be some phishing emails, coming across?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, so that'll
Nothing
be.
that I've seen. I know that they have a statement on their website about
Mhm.
certain things, um, but it's
Quiet.
it's very high level at this point. It's about what they're doing to deal with the issue, not like you know not anything that we should do, and it's more cover your ass for stock purposes is what I'm seeing on their website. So yeah, I mean, obviously we'll be on the lookout for all that stuff, and I'll update everybody if we see anything. But
I
yeah,
have a
very
couple points I
interesting.
want to add.
Not impacting our business too greatly, like I said, because we have other options. Would totally suck if we didn't have other options, but luckily we do.
Hey, Brian,
So, yep,
I have a couple of points I want to add to that because you were
yeah,
talking about the competitors and all that, and this just underscores how important it is for businesses to try to stay cyber secure in the first place. Because one, you'll probably lose business to your competitors while you're down, and that's what's happening to Ingram and these other companies. Even if they come in as the good guy, you start buying from them. It's going to be a whole lot easier just to keep buying from them going forward, rather than having to go back and fix everything in Ingram. And then also, most businesses are not prepared for this loss of income. So Ingram has now lost. I mean, I don't know how much is on recurring, how much is their
well,
like
yeah,
commits.
yeah. Like they
And
can't process payments right now, so that's like the other thing. Like
yeah,
we
and
buy hardware, a lot of hardware from them,
yep,
but we also have certain subscriptions through
Yeah.
them, like software subscriptions. And I'm sure when they come back up, they'll charge us immediately. But yeah, they probably haven't charged us.
and most businesses can't handle that. Like no money coming in for a week, 2 weeks, a month, could be really bad for them.
Yep, good point. It's definitely going to impact their stock price, and we'll find that out come reporting time when they admit that they didn't hit their numbers, and this is what this event actually cost us.
Yeah.
And they may provide guidance before that day, and that's when their stock will tank. All right, guys. So moving right along here. So now, since we're talking about major disruptions, let's shift gears to the rise of AI and cyber attacks. And yeah, it's not just science fiction anymore, as AI Andre is going to point out. New article from SQ Magazine breaks down how some startling statistics on how threat actors are using AI, from supercharging phishing campaigns to automating malware development, even deep fake based scams. Andre's been digging into this data, and trust me, it's kind of stuff that keeps CISOs up at night. Andre, what did you find in the numbers?
Yeah, so this is really interesting, and I'm going to quickly go over five of the top statistics that I saw that I want to talk about, and just real quick. So, first one is it's talking about how AI presence in cybersecurity is no longer a future concern. So, check this out. It did a survey, and 57% of SOC, Security Operations Center analysts, these are the people that are watching day and night all of the different activities that's happening. 57% of them report that the traditional threat intelligence and the tools that they're using now is no longer sufficient against AI accelerated attacks. Second one, Russia and China are linked to 42% of AI-based state-sponsored incidents, so no kind of surprise there. Third statistic, ransomware campaigns using AI-generated negotiation bots led to faster payment cycles. So this is just basically now saying that when you get ransomware, you're not talking to a person, you're talking to a bot where they've already trained, knowing what you're going to say, negotiation tactics and everything. So they're like mass scaling this now because they don't even need someone behind the computer to negotiate. Next statistic, organizations using legacy security tools incurred an average of 42% higher cost incident. We always talk about the legacy systems, that one computer in the back that's still on because someone still needs to get a report or get some archive information. You have a 42% higher chance of occurring attack. And last one is generative AI phishing emails in 2025 had a 72% higher open rate. So all of the spam filtering that you have, third-party tools, Microsoft, etc., 72% chance open rate, which means that these AI phishing emails that they're sending, our current anti-phishing software is not able to detect that this is phishing. So that's what I have for you guys. Love to hear your thoughts, or if you saw some other pointers you want to talk about.
Yeah, I just
Me, by the way,
read.
that guy. My gosh, that's my ugly brother, Brian.
What?
That's my ugly brother there, man. That
Yeah,
picture.
I told you it's AI Andre. It's Dr. Andre.
There you go. We lost Randy, so go ahead, Brian.
Well, that stinks. Hopefully he can join back. I don't know what he was gonna ask there, but pretty amazing stuff. I mean, I don't. I'm highly concerned about what you're kind of saying because I know what's coming down the road with quantum, right? So if we can trick what we have right now with just the AI, right? Imagine how hard it's going to be with quantum. It's almost going to be like it's literally going to be like cyber warfare, as we've kind of always termed it. Right? Like I think like cyber warfare always used to be thought of as like two countries' militaries like figuring out how to battle it out on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
But now what we're learning is it's really going to be these cyber criminals against private businesses and government organizations and schools and all the organizations that are being attacked right now. And you're not going to be able to defend this stuff with the current technology. Like as we move forward, you're going to need to put, tools that can keep up, meaning you have to build AI tools that can keep up with the AI that's being used against you. And then the same thing's going to happen when quantum comes out. You're going to have to put essentially quantum defenses up against quantum attacks. And that's the only way you're going to stop this stuff. So you're going to constantly have to evolve and adapt and invest in newer tools that can deal with the threats. We've always said this is a cat and mouse game, right? So, and you're identifying a gap. What you're saying is like, hey, we have a problem here. This is getting worse because of AI. So what's the solution going to be? The solution is going to be somebody's going to have to develop AI that can figure out this stuff faster because the current way of doing it is too slow.
Wow. And Randy's in the green room, if you can let him in. So it's very similar to like when we went from our traditional antivirus to MXDR services. So now there's going to be another tool, more money, that we're going to have to tell our clients, like, yeah, we're doing this, but things have changed. Quantum threats are now a thing, and we need to add something, and that's
Yeah, it's going to be a really big deal. And when you're talking about that, Brian, I was in the green room listening. I mean, it sounded like you're describing Terminator 3. Do you know what I mean? Where in Terminator 3, they kicked off the AI so they could stop the virus or whatever. I'm not saying that that's necessarily what's going to happen or whatever, but this is a real issue. And I was going to say when I got booted there a second ago, I just read an article this morning where some researchers went and trained AI on ransomware, and that trained AI was able to evade Microsoft Defender 8% of the time, which
Oh,
doesn't
wow.
sound like much, but we're just talking, you know, an AI that they trained was able to get past Microsoft Defender. So you're right. We're gonna see this become a battle of AI versus AI very, very shortly.
Yep. So we're already starting to see, like, I'm already starting to see like some adaptations happen as a result of this, right? I know for a fact that a lot of there used to be a way to do like video authentication for mortgage and banking and
Hmm.
things like that, where you could pop up on screen and do a zoom, and as long as you were like moving around, that was enough for them to say like, yeah, that's really that person, and so we'll accept a digital signature and things like that,
Yeah.
right? So scammers and cyber criminals figured out that they could create an AI generated version of that person and have them moving around and fake the person. And it really took a keen eye to first notice it when it first started happening, where somebody was like, hey, I don't think that person's real. They've been kind of making the same movements for like the whole like half hour. It's very weird and
Yeah.
unnatural. So that's kind of when they initially figured out that this was going on. And a lot of them now, they require you to do like two-factor process almost, where it's like you have to be on screen, but you also have to provide like a picture of your front and back of your license.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's a way that they've kind of decided like, hey, if somebody can be moving on screen and also provide a snapshot of the front and back of their license, like them holding it or something like that, that's kind of accepted as like now the verification for these types of things because of AI being able to scam people like we're seeing. So very interesting. I mean, and that's only going to last a little while until cyber criminals figure out how to replicate that whole process. But
Exactly.
the point is, you have to be aware of these things, right? So this is like where I believe a service like threat intelligence, like services that our companies provide to companies, comes in handy, right? Where somebody can provide this information to you on a weekly or regular basis, letting you know, like, hey, dude, this is happening out there, and like you need to be aware of it, right? And maybe you need to change some processes, some business processes, like right now, because of this vulnerability, this scam, this thing that's going on out there. It could be what I talked about. It could be voice calls, and just making sure that you have an extra check in place so you don't fall victim to this stuff, because it's moving that fast, and the tools that you think are protecting you are not really protecting you, as Andre pointed out. Like they can't. The antivirus cannot keep up with the mutating viruses that AI is able to create on the fly. So today's tools can't keep up with that, and there's nothing out there that I know of that can. That's like almost like we got to fundamentally change how the operating system is allowed to let things fire off
Right.
if that's the threat, right? So
Mhm.
thoughts before we move on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
you mentioned also while I was stuck in the green room, you mentioned how phishing, AI, malicious phishing was way up and more successful. I think you said 72% of the time.
Oh
I'm
man.
starting to hear, I don't know the name of the product. I'm starting to hear of an AI phish testing software that's kind of doing the same thing. It's looking at what AI is doing maliciously.
All right,
I am
Randy.
lagging out. My
You
internet's
are
coming back. My power's back on. So
you
I'll
are
let y'all
back.
talk for a minute.
All right,
Uh, yeah, no, I'm good on my side.
cool. So we will move right along. Randy, I don't know how much you're going to be able to speak here, but we'll try to let you go. I'll introduce what you're going to talk about, and then we'll let you roll as far as you can go and till you
Well,
lag out there.
My power just came back on, and I think the lag was my regular internet kicking in.
Good.
So I think I'm
All
good.
right, cool.
All
Good.
right.
All right. So let's go. So Andre or Randy, we're going to take this AI conversation a little bit further with Randy here and talk about the elephant in the room. As businesses sprint to adopt AI and unlock new efficiencies, we are ignoring the growing risk to data privacy and security, or are we? And Randy's going to dive in and talk about that. He found a pretty solid article on Security Info Watch that lays out the current crisis. The AI is evolving fast, but regulations and data protection protocols are lagging behind. It's creating a dangerous gap, and the threat actors are already exploiting this. So, Randy, you've been keeping a close eye on this. What's the big picture here, and are we innovating ourselves into a security disaster?
Yeah. Okay. So I'd say going back almost a year, we've started seeing, as we're doing cybersecurity risk assessments for companies, we're starting to see their data pop up in all kinds of weird places all over the world, most likely associated with basically employees using AI kind of on their own. So the issue here is when they're using AI, basically they're sharing company data in potentially diverse places that you didn't even think about. So we like to talk about like a security perimeter, where these are kind of where your company is out in the world as far as like cybersecurity goes. And when you bring AI into the picture, it just opens up like this whole new perimeter, because the crisis here is employees are sometimes using AI that doesn't have any kind of security controls on it. So your company data is being used to train AI basically. Now, the way most AI works, it's very similar to the human brain. I give the example. I read a book that was, very influential for me like 15, 20 years ago. It was called Good to Great, talking about how you lead an organization. And when you leave, the organization keeps going because you led it, but you also taught people how to lead. Like, I remember all that, but I don't remember exactly like the whole thing word for word, but I do remember some chunks out of it. AI is very similar in the way that it remembers data. So it's not like you take a spreadsheet and it remembers everything exactly word for word. But the thing is, the more unique that data is, the more likely a bigger chunk is going to be remembered by AI. And the right people on the other side that aren't available, that aren't a part of your organization, could potentially bring that back up. And I'll sum it up with this, because I know y'all want to give y'all's opinion on it as well. But I'll sum it up for this. Brian, you mentioned Exact IT, 25 years. What does IT stand for? It stands for information technology. There's cybersecurity officers called CISO. What does the I in CISO stand for? Information. That's our data. For basically our adult lives, y'all, we've been trying to keep data safe, information safe. And now all of a sudden we have AI, and man, people are just pumping it all over everywhere, and our data is going all over everywhere. And if we're not careful, that's the crisis. That is the impending like data apocalypse, if you will, if we're not careful.
Sorry, this is just a bad IT nerd dad joke, but this is like port 3389 on steroids.
Yes. That's a really bad IT dad joke. Oh my gosh. I just thought of a new podcast, IT Dad.
IT dad.
There you go. Yeah.
IT dad jokes. I'll be on that.
Something like that. Something like that.
So, I mean, it's really interesting because I'm not trying to joke about it, because we've seen this before. Companies adopt new technology for competitive advantage, and as simple as like, hey, we just need to be able to remote into our server, our computer from my house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not thinking about the risks, and then the world learned pretty quickly once these ransomware groups started to figure out that there was a lot of machines out there that were exposed to the internet that they could just remote into if they could figure out the username and password. These are the types of guardrails that exist today in most cases. Like 3389 is kind of like pretty much everybody knows you don't do that anymore for the most part. Even like people that aren't in IT kind of know you don't do this for the most part, right? And 15 years ago, that wasn't the case. 15 years ago, I knew IT administrators who thought nothing of exposing 3389 to the internet so they could remote into their systems. And they thought like they're the only person in the world who's ever going to find that. So they expose themselves and their clients or their own employers to these massive risks. And same thing's going to happen with AI, as Randy points out in his segment here. So any thoughts here, Andre?
Yeah, I got a couple. So first one is that this article talked about how about 9% of employee prompts include sensitive data. So if you take it where your team of 10 and they ask about 100 questions a day to the AI, you have a possibility of about 8 or 9 of those questions or inputs that they put into the AI have some type of confidential regulated data that they shouldn't have. Another thing that I like what this article talked about was what is called prompt monitoring. And I actually never heard of that, I'll admit it. And that's basically where every prompt is basically evaluated with the AI. And if it has some type of privacy or compliance, it will not allow the that to be uploaded. So that's an interesting thing. Also, this article talked about lawsuits waiting to happen. So in these terms and conditions, just like Microsoft and Google, they say, hey, we're not responsible. It's only a matter of time until one of these AI tools get breached. And when they get breached, and the same thing like how we saw with power schools, right? With in all of these cities with the schools, where this third-party tool that was holding all of the students' information got breached. And at the end, it was the school districts that had to deal with it. So what happens now when the third-party AI tool that that's being used, they get breached, all of this information is there, and now your customers are coming to you and you're like, oh my gosh, and like what even happens where you don't even know your employees are using an AI tool, and then that system gets breached, and now it comes back to you because gross negligence. And I can guarantee you I don't even know now, do most insurances like cyber insurance even cover AI breaches? I don't even know if the word AI is in those policies yet. They're so behind. But so they may even just say, we don't even know what AI is. There's nothing in this policy. Go away.
Yeah, we, you mentioned something there, Andre, that, I think if people were aware that we have started an AI podcast called the Scale AI Podcast. Our YouTube channel is up. I'll try to throw it in the comments so people have a link to it. But at the end of the day, on that podcast, we're teaching you practical things. And one of the things we will teach on that podcast is how to build what Andre described, which was how do you build like that sanitization of prompts and give that to your employees to make sure that they're not putting anything in. That's very buildable today using something called custom GPTs. And then you allow your employees to use that custom GPT, and that can be kind of like a really easy way for you to build controls into what gets put into ChatGPT and things like that. So check out our podcast, the Scale AI Podcast, to learn how to do those things. But really good point, really good thing there, Andre, to talk about, because that is kind of something new that we're learning for how businesses are using AI in terms of like, hey, yeah, we got to let our employees use this, but what are ways that we can control what they put in so we can do it in a responsible way? Because if you don't head this up, right, if you don't make this a top-down thing, your employees will pick up their phone. Like we've seen it. Like companies like, we're just going to block AI. Well, they pick up their phone and they use it on their phone. Right? So they figure out a way to email your company doc from your system to their personal Gmail or something like that, which they shouldn't be doing, which puts you even further at risk. This is called shadow IT. Like, how do I get this document so I can get it onto my phone? You know, they can use Dropbox. They can use, if you don't block all these things, that's how they're figuring this out. And they can get that file onto their phone so they can put it in ChatGPT and then do what they want to do. So you got to be the one who gives them these tools in a responsible way and allows them to use this technology in a responsible way.
Cybersecurity is AI.
They're 100%. I mean, they're both wrapped together. If you choose to ignore it, you're going to be, you know, in a lot of trouble and behind the eight ball. So, any other thoughts on this before we kind of move on and wrap up the show? I'm going to kind of block you out, Randy, here because I want to throw up what Luke said. But one of our listeners, Luke, mentioned recent arrest tied to the Marks and Spencer cyber attack, and I just wanted to talk about that because we did talk about it on quite a few shows. And that's a great call out by him, and we appreciate him bringing that to our attention. Luke is in the UK, so it hits close to home to him, and it's a reminder that law enforcement is catching up. No longer are the days where cyber criminals can run in the dark forever and ever. Law enforcement is getting better and better at figuring out where these criminals are and shining a spotlight on them and getting these cockroaches out. So we're starting to see more collaboration between cybersecurity firms who research this stuff on their own, like our companies do, and international agencies. And while these arrests are rare, they send a message. If you're a cyber criminal, you might get away with it for a while, but eventually the net closes in. It also shows us that attribution isn't just a buzzword. The breadcrumbs of these attacks leave behind are things like IP addresses, reused malware code, and digital wallets. And they all become evidence and traces that we can use to find these guys. And it might not be enough to stop the breach, but it could stop the threat actor later on down the line, because we know that these guys continue to do what they do over and over again. The bigger takeaway, law enforcement's getting smarter, but so should your business around this stuff.
And I can guarantee, well, I won't say guarantee, but I'm pretty sure that these 17-year-olds that got caught aren't these genius computer science whizzes and they've been programming since they're 7 years old. They are just kids that was able to find a cheap tool online, buy it, and then...
You're calling them script kiddies?
Script kiddies. All right.
They're coming for you now. You're a target.
Today's word of the day.
They're never gonna find me at Exact IT.
Hey, Randy, your neighbor said, "What's up?" I guess he got his power back too.
Yep, that's awesome. And I came up as a notification for him.
So that's a wrap, guys. Appreciate your inputs on the show this week for Security Squawk. We covered the Ingram Micro, one of the largest IT distributors, taken down by the ransomware group. What the heck's their name? Pay Us Now?
No, SafePay.
SafePay. What would you do? You know, it just makes you think about, like, what would you do if one of your biggest vendors suddenly went dark? This should be part of your response plan, incident response plan, when one of your major third-party vendors goes down. Also should give you a reason to think about backups, right, for these different vendors. AI-based cyber attacks are growing fast. Andre hit us with the latest stats that show just how bad it's getting. And Randy walked us through the risks of unchecked AI innovation, especially when it comes to protecting sensitive data. So if you got value from the show, please do us a favor. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share the podcast with your friends, family, and team. Leave us a review if you're listening to us. It helps more people and business leaders stay ahead of these cyber threats. And until next time, stay safe out there. And remember, we're all in this cyber fight together. So stay safe out there. And if you need help with this, don't hesitate to reach out to the three of us or hit us up in the show comments. Call Randy or call Andre.
There you go. Yeah.
See y'all next week.